Part 15. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 141. Chapter 141 The Mysterious Cave. When Mu Qingjian drove the car to a secluded small village, the two of them staggered out of the car, feeling that their feet were still shaking. Vomit, Yin Qingji couldn't help but vomit it out, her whole face turned as pale as white paper. Zhang Xingrui came behind her and patted her back. Yaya, are you okay? Are you feeling better? Ahem, it's okay, Xiao Yanyan, I didn't expect you to drive so scary. It's the first time I vomited in a car in my age. The car you drove was too torturous. She smiled awkwardly and said, ahem, haha, it's okay. I'll drive slower next time when I go back. No, let's drive, the two said in unison. Okay, then go back and drive, she looked regretful. Then he regained his composure and looked at the small village in front of him. We are here. This village should be where Mr. Yin and Mr. Zhang have been. We can ask the villagers some information and see where they are going. After all, this village was the last place they disappeared. Yin Qingji looked at this small mountain village where only a few dozen families lived. How could my grandfather and grandpa Zhang come to such a remote mountain village? Are there any ancient tombs and magical existences in this place? Mu Qingjian parked the car. Many ancient tombs come from these remote areas. It's hard to say. Let's go into the village. Okay, let's go. Several people slowly approached the village, and suddenly several men with hose in their hands stopped in front of them menacingly. A middle-aged man came out and said, "Who are you? What are you doing in our Guzai village? Strange tourists are not welcome in our village. You hurry up and get out of here." Seeing how exclusive this village was, she always felt that they were too nervous. "Hello uncle, we are here to find someone, and we will not hurt you." Zhang Xingrui said nervously, "Yes. We are not bad people. I came here to find my grandpa and his friends." "Have you seen my grandpa?" Then he took out a photo of Mr. Zhang and Mr. Yin from his arms. "That's them. They are my and my girlfriend's grandfathers. Have they ever been to your village? Where are they now?" The middle-aged man saw the worried look on his face, which did not look like a bad person, so he took the photo in his hand. "These two men did come to our village to rest for a while, but they insisted on looking for something, and then left our village after asking us some questions." Yin Qingji heard that her grandfather had come. Then where did they go? Please tell us. The middle-aged old man shook his head. That place is inaccessible. They wanted to kill people. They just didn't listen to the old people in the village and insisted on going in. That's why no living person dared to enter that place. You kids, don't go there. Ah! They must have died there, and no one can come out alive. Mu Qingjian looked puzzled. Then, where is that place? Can you take us there? After all, they are important people to us. We want to see them alive, and we want to see their corpses even if they die. The middle-aged man saw that they were going to die. "We won't take you there. The Erlangzi in our village took your grandfather in. Now I don't know whether they are dead or alive. I can only tell you that behind the mountain, there is a hole in the mountain. You can see a mysterious and weird entrance there, but you can only do the rest by yourself." "Okay, we get it, thank you." Looking at their leaving figures, he said, "Shi Yuan. Those three children will definitely die if they go in. Why don't we stop them?" The middle-aged man shook his head. "What's the use of blocking? Everyone thinks there are good things there, and it depends on whether they can come back alive. Who made them so greedy? We can't blame us for being punished by the mountain and staying there. We deserve our fate. So, let's go back." When the three of them climbed the mountain for 3 hours, they saw the mysterious and weird cave that the middle-aged man said. It is located on a cliff, with a strange tree growing out of the cave around it, covering half of the cave entrance. Zhang Xingrui looked at the steep walls of the cave and said, "This is too high. Grandpa and the others really dare to climb up." Yankinja took out the climbing tools and said, "Fortunately, I go up there often, so this height is no problem." I saw her flexibly hooking the hook on the tree and pulling hard. "Yeah, it's quite strong. Let me go up first." Mukinjian walked over and said, "I'll go up first. You guys are coming up from behind. No one knows what will suddenly appear in the cave." The two of them watched her climb up quickly and flexibly using the rope. The speed of climbing seemed like a play to her. After she came up, she threw the rope down. "Okay, you can come up." While Mukinjian looked around the cave, the two of them also climbed up with great difficulty. Zhang Xingrui sat on the ground. "I asked you how you climbed so fast, I was exhausted." She glanced at him and handed them a torch she had just made. "It's a matter of physical strength. You're still too weak. Let's go." The two of them put away the rope and followed her immediately, took the torch, and followed her carefully. From the small entrance, the inside becomes wider and darker. The torch couldn't illuminate the entire cave at all, but they could still vaguely see the dense stalactites in various shapes above their heads. The two of them were attracted by the stalactites in the naturally formed cave. "Xiao Yanyan, how old are the caves here?" She looked at the stalactites on her head. These stalactites took about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years to form. Or even longer. "Be careful." The two of them were shocked. "It's amazing." Suddenly the road ahead opened up, and she looked at the scratches on the four walls. "The road is gone. Look for any small holes or weird places." "Okay, let's see." Several people held torches and looked around for an entrance, and finally Yinkinja saw a small cave. "Xiao Yanyan, Arui, come here and take a look. There is a strange cave here, and it seems you can go inside." The two of them rushed over after hearing the sound and looked at a small 1-meter cave under her feet. Mukinjian picked up a stone on the ground and threw it in. There was no sound. She looked solemn and said, "This hole is very deep. If you guessed correctly, there is water below." "Water? Why didn't we hear any sound?" "It's very quiet." Zhang Xingrui found another big stone and threw it in. "No, I didn't hear it." She couldn't help but laugh. "Maybe my ears are better. I'll go down first, and you guys should follow me." She tied 3 people to the same rope and looked at the 2 people. "Get ready. Then we're going to go down." The 2 nodded nervously. "Ready, please be careful in front." Just like this, the 3 of them carefully climbed down into this unfathomable small cave. Not long after they went down, a figure appeared above. The corners of his mouth raised crazily, revealing an evil smile. "The treasure belongs to me, and you people are worthy of robbing it from me without risking life or death." Then he took out a knife, cut their ropes, and left the scene. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 142. Chapter 142. A horrifying day. The people who were crawling slowly suddenly felt that there was no pulling force, and they quickly slid forward. "Ah, Xiao Yanyan, the rope is broken. What should I do? It's too slippery and I can't stop, it's over." Mukinjian and others suddenly fell into the suspended cave and fell at an extremely fast speed. She had no choice but to use her spiritual power to protect them, and with a pop, several people fell into the water. She quickly swam up to the water and pulled the rope hard to pull the 2 of them out of the water. The 2 of them had narrowly escaped death and were breathing hard. "Oh my God. I almost thought it was over, but luckily there is still water to catch us, but the water is a bit cold." Zhang Xingrui couldn't help but shiver from the cold. Yinkinja shivered from the cold. "Well, let's go up first. The water here is so cold." She looked at the cave above her head, and it seemed that there was no way back. They had no choice but to lead the way and swam for a minute. The two of them swam slower and slower due to the cold. Suddenly something jumped out of the water, and huge waves crashed in front of them. An ugly giant fish grinned with sharp teeth, and opened its mouth wide to swallow Zhang Xingrui. Mu Qingjian flew up quickly and kicked it on the head. It turned over and died. Then she flew to the shore and pulled the two of them up. They were pulled up by her like fishermen. Another strange fish jumped up and tried to bite him, but missed him just a little bit. Several giant fish opened their huge mouths to eat the fish she kicked to death, and were quickly eaten clean by several strange fish. The two of them were so frightened that they quickly retreated. What is this thing? It's so scary. I almost got eaten by a fish. Mu Qingjian looked at the fish. If I'm not mistaken, it's a mutated piranha. It's quite powerful to live in such cold water. And the one I just saw that I kicked to death, a giant piranha with undigested human corpses in its belly. Yin Qingja was so frightened that her face turned pale with coldness. Xiao Yanyan, it can't be Grandpa and the others. How could Grandpa and the others escape such a terrifying and huge piranha? We've. She was so frightened that she cried, fearing that her grandfather had already become food for those piranhas. Zhang Xingrui reached out to hug her and comfort her. It's okay, it definitely won't be Grandpa and Grandpa Yin, don't worry. She nodded and said, well. Don't worry. The body is not theirs, it should have come with your grandfather and the others. Let's change our clothes and continue walking. Be careful not to catch a cold, the river water is very cold. She knew her grandfather was fine, and she felt relieved again. The people changed into clean dry clothes and continued walking forward. Mu Qingjian picked up a wooden stick on the ground and made several torches. The three of them held torches and continued to walk slowly deeper into the cave. As they went deeper and deeper, many crystal clear giant crystals appeared on the ground. It's so beautiful. The more you go inside, the crystal stones become more beautiful, and the colors become more and more beautiful. Yin Qingja looked at these crystal stones, and her whole body was filled with beauty. My eyes were confused uncontrollably, and I walked towards the sharp crystal stone step by step, wanting to embrace this beautiful crystal stone. She quickly pulled the two of them over. Don't keep staring at these crystal stones, you will lose yourself. Ah, what happened to us just now? The two were confused and at a loss. It's okay, you two just turned into this corpse and gave these crystal stones a loving hug. The two of them watched a dried corpse being pierced through the entire body, with a look of death in silence. Ah, someone died again. She looked at the corpse in fear and hid behind her in fear. Well. It's okay, don't worry. This body has been dead for a long time. It's not from the same group of people. Let's keep walking. Be careful not to keep staring at this beautiful crystal boulder. The better it looks, the more it will confuse people. The two obediently stopped looking at these beautiful crystal stones and followed her closely. When these beautiful crystal stones slowly disappeared, the two of them dared to look around again. When a few people walked inside, they saw a tree appearing in the cave. The tree actually grew into the cave. This scene made a few people a little confused. They slowly approached the tree and found that there was no exit nearby. Xiao Yanyan, the hole seems to have reached the end, but nothing was found, just a tree. Zhang Xingrui touched the tree. This tree is nothing special. Are we just going to find a tree after all the effort? Mu Qingjian took out a dagger from her bag and slashed it against the tree. I saw that the scratched tree was bleeding red like blood, very much like human blood. Xiao Yanyan, has this tree become a spirit? Why is it bleeding? It's not enough to become a spirit, but there are a lot of secrets under this tree. She then found a secret door under the tree and turned it. A tunnel appeared on the stone wall behind the tree, and two surprised eyes looked at her with admiration. Awesome, how did you discover that there is a secret door? You guessed it, let's go in quickly. After the three people went down, the tunnel was closed again, and the three people did not care to continue searching for Yin Lao and others. Since getting off the bed, she felt that the air was filled with a strong smell of blood, and her pace became faster and faster. Several people walked into a dark passage, and there were pools of blood on the ground. Following the direction of the blood stains, I found blood-stained shredded clothes, a little bit of minced meat inside, and a fresh white bone. Yenkinja covered her mouth, holding back tears and nausea. What's going on? This man's body seems to have been eaten by something. Zhang Xingrui was also disgusted. He couldn't imagine what his grandfather was going through. Mu Qingjian leaned down and touched Bai Gu's forehead. The scene of his life and death flashed in her mind. The two of them saw her calmly touching the bones of the dead, and they both suppressed their fear and admired her. She was not even afraid of the dead. Let's go. He was eaten by bloodthirsty red ants. This kind of bloodthirsty red ants can eat all living things. It is a very difficult animal. After the two people experienced it throughout the day, what they encountered and saw completely subverted their imaginations. They never thought that in a peaceful world, there would be so many weird creatures that they didn't know existed, and they were so terrifying. Before she even walked inside, she heard all the sounds. Mu Qingjian's face was full of expressions, and she really said that Cao would be there as soon as he arrived. Everyone hide behind me, the bloodthirsty red ants are coming. The two of them immediately reacted quickly and hid behind her. They had just seen the horror of this thing, and they didn't want to turn into a skeleton. Densely packed red ants came toward them, each one as big as a bee. This trypophobic patient is afraid that his whole body will suffocate when he sees it. Even if they are not trypophobic, they still break out in cold sweats and goosebumps. Mu Qingjian took out a series of fire talismans and threw them in casually. The bloodthirsty red ants were so burned that they avoided them in fear. With a wave of their hands, a protective barrier formed by flames protected the three of them inside. The bloodthirsty red ants above them were burned to death and fell down. After a few minutes, the bloodthirsty red ants slowly disappeared. The two regained their lives and looked at the densely packed corpses of bloodthirsty red ants on the ground in fear. This day felt extremely long to them. It was really an exciting and terrifying day. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 143. Chapter 143 Obtaining the Fire Spirit Orb. After this day's tossing, both Yenkinja and Zhang Xingrui were a little exhausted. Xiao Yanyan, I'm a little tired, can we take a rest? Mu Qingjian opened the secret door, and a stone door opened instantly. She looked back at the two of them. Let's go in, this is the territory of bloodthirsty red ants, let's go in and rest. The two of them quickly followed, and as the stone door closed, they found a flat place to sit down. Zhang Xingrui took out the water from his backpack and handed it to Yenkinja. Qingjian, this cave is too big. We haven't seen my grandfather and the others yet, and we don't know what happened to them. She looked around and said, this cave is indeed a bit big, so it will be more troublesome to find your grandfather and the others. Because it is too big and there are many passages, it will definitely take some time to find them. Okay, let's rest here for a few days. Hours. The two of them took out food from their backpacks and ate something casually to replenish their energy. She had already gone without food, so it was of no use to her whether she ate or not, but she still took out some food at will and ate it. The two of them ate good food and then fell asleep clinging to each other. As mere mortals, they would definitely not be able to endure it any longer. After they fell asleep, she got up and continued looking for the secret passage, and soon found it. But I found something strange in the middle. When I pressed the button, a dark passage appeared, and a dark staircase led deeper. When the two of them woke up, they found Mukinjian standing next to them. She rubbed her eyes and said, "Xiao Yanyan, don't you need to sleep?" Mukinjian handed the torch to them. "There is something moving down there, let's go down and have a look." The two people immediately took the torch and lit it. Zhang Grui saw the underground passage next to it. "We found the exit. Let's go find Grandpa quickly." A few people walked carefully down the stairs. They didn't know how many floors they had gone down, but they could feel that it was getting hotter and hotter. By the time they reached the last level, there was red magma under the ground. No wonder they felt so hot. They originally wore large cotton padded jackets in winter, but now they were stripped down to just a base layer. Zhang Grui walked forward and threw the bottle in his hand, and it melted within a few seconds. He was so frightened that he stayed away from the lava. "Oh my God! It's real lava! How are we going to get there now? Can we just go back the way we came?" Yankinja swallowed, sweating on her forehead due to the heat. "Xiao Yanyan, there is no road ahead, what should I do? It will be cold if I fall." Mukinjian looked at the hot magma below. If she wanted to get over, she could only jump over these rocks. If she made a wrong step, she would fall down and become the nutrients of the magma. "I'll jump over these stones first. You follow me and don't step on other stones. Because some stones are floating and cannot bear the weight of people." The two of them nodded in agreement and followed him cautiously. While waiting for a few people to get through the magma, the stone Yankinja was standing on suddenly broke into pieces. Seeing that she was about to fall, she didn't care about them discovering her ability, so she jumped over and threw her up. Her feet had already touched the lava and she fell down. This scene frightened the two of them. Seeing Mukinjian disappear into the magma instantly, Yankinja shouted in pain. "Xiao Yan! Weavuo, Xiao Yan, why do you want to save me?" Zhang Grui hugged her, fearing that she would fall, and couldn't help but shed tears. The two of them knelt on the ground heartbroken and cried, looking at the flaming red magma in front of them at a loss. Mukinjian, who was sinking, was protected by the ice phoenix and slowly sank to the bottom of the magma. The bottom became less and less hot, and the ice spirit pearl happily flew to her shoulder. "Master, Master, I feel the breath of the fire spirit pearl. It is at the bottom of the magma. No wonder it feels so familiar to me. It turns out that it is hidden in this place." Suddenly a flaming living spiritual bead appeared in front of her. It quickly approached her and entered her body. In an instant, Mukinjian felt that her body was being stretched by a powerful force, and her skin was extremely red. "My whole body felt uncomfortably hot, as if I had fallen into a flame and was scorching. After a while, it was like falling into a glacier again, and it was cold to the bone." She couldn't help but frown as she felt hot and cold. She didn't know how long it took, but she had slowly accepted this torture and no longer had any resistance. The fire spirit bead was also contracted in her body, making Mukinjian like a phoenix reborn from the ashes. Looking at the red mark appearing on her forehead, she felt a bit seductive and stunning. She took out a piece of clothing from the space and slowly put it on. The clothing had already been destroyed when it fell off. The fire spirit pearl flew in front of me obediently. "Master, I'm sorry for making you suffer." She reached out and touched its head. "It doesn't matter, I will become better because of you, so I am very grateful that you can recognize me." It looked at her shyly and said, "Thank you, Master. It is an honor for me to make a contract with you." Putting the two spirit beads into her body, the magma is now like hot water in a bath to her. When she swam up again, Yankinja and Zhang Grui were no longer there. Looking at where they left, she could tell that they stayed for a day and then left anxiously. The steps on the ground were very hurried, so it was obvious that he was in such a hurry because he encountered something. In fact, when she fell, the two of them waited patiently for a whole day. Mukinjian followed their footsteps and quickly shuttled through the secret passage. Finally heard their voices at a secret door. She pressed the secret door directly, and several people saw the door suddenly open. Hurriedly ran in her direction. When Yin Kinja saw it was her, she ran over crying. Xiaoyanyan, have you turned into a ghost? Woohoo, right, I was the one who killed you. Xiaoyanyan, I will come to accompany you right away, so you don't have to be alone. Zhang Xingrui looked at her dressed in red. The originally white sports suit was now red. Kinjian, you have turned into a ghost. She held her hand and said, can you feel my body temperature? I am a living person, not a ghost. She felt the warmth in her hands, and she hugged her and cried loudly. Weevu, I was scared to death, Xiaoyanyan. We thought you were dead if you fell. Weevu, I'm so scared. Okay, it's okay, don't cry. Zhang Xingrui carried the injured old man Zhang on his back. Fortunately you are okay, otherwise how would we explain to Grandpa Bo? Yin Lao looked at her and said, Xiao Yan. Thank you very much for saving Yaya. Fortunately, you are okay. You're welcome Mr. Yin, are you okay? Yin Lao looked at old Zhang, we are all fine, but Lao Zhang was scratched by the monster while trying to save us. He is unconscious now. Xiao Yan, please show Lao Zhang what's wrong with him. Mukinjian walked over and asked Zhang Xingrui to put the person down. Seeing the black corpse spots appearing on his black face due to wounds, it was obvious that he had been poisoned by corpse poison, and then he was given a pill. Old man Zhang's expression returned to normal, and now everyone felt relieved. The exploration of the ancient tomb made them deeply feel the breath of death. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 144. Chapter 144 She in the Coffin. When old man Zhang slowly opened his eyes and looked at Mukinjian's face, he smiled helplessly. Girl Mu, I didn't expect to meet you even after I died. You said that I, an old and immortal person, would die as soon as I died. It's such a pity that you died so young. Alas, fate is so cruel. Zhang Xingrui reached out and touched his grandfather's forehead. I don't have a fever. You shouldn't be confused. Old man Zhang felt his body temperature and immediately knew that he was still alive, so he pushed Zhang Xingrui's hand away. Go, you're not serious, Mu girl. It's great that you're okay. Don't worry. I'm still alive, and you can live for a few more decades. Since everything is fine, let's get up and keep going. Haha, that's right, old man, I will live for a long time. By the way, where did the monster go? Yin Lao shook his head and sighed, you were scratched and fell into a coma. We only escaped when we met Xiao Yan. The monster should still be guarding the coffin. Sigh, this thing is too powerful. I can't fight it at all. I'm almost running out of talismans, so I can't even hurt it at all. Instead, I'm almost dead from being injured by it. Mukinjian opened the passage, let's go in and have a look. I want to see what kind of monster it is. Several people quickly followed her, girl Mu. That thing has lived for a long time at least. Let's be careful. Well, don't worry. When a few people walked inside, they saw a huge coffin. Standing next to the coffin was a monster wearing armor. It felt someone and opened its red eyes. Old man Zhang shouted loudly, be careful. It woke up. The monster stretched out its hands and attacked them crazily. Mukinjian pierced the ruby on its forehead with a sword. As soon as the ruby broke, its eyes dimmed instantly. Then he fell down, defeating a monster easily. Knowing that they were confused, she explained, this is a puppet corpse. Its ability comes from the ruby on its head. Without the energy source of this ruby, it will naturally become useless. Dry corpse, otherwise it will be useless. When she reached the coffin, Mr. Yin quickly approached the coffin and showed a surprised smile. This coffin is at least several thousand years old. This coffin is a rare sacred ancient wood. It is said that this sacred ancient wood can perfectly preserve a corpse's dead appearance and remain unchanged for thousands of years. It can be seen that the person in this coffin must be only those who are descendants of the royal family, or those who are cultivating immortals would go to great lengths to make it so grand. Zhang Xingrui gathered around excitedly. Grandpa Yin, isn't this divine ancient wood very valuable? There will definitely be a good treasure in the coffin. Then we can open it and find out what kind of treasure is inside, right, Xiao Yanyan? As soon as Zhang Xingrui heard what Yin Qinji said, he opened the coffin excitedly, but the lid of the coffin remained motionless even though he tried his best. Holy shit, this coffin is stuck with super glue. Why can't it be opened? What the hell? Mu Qinjian picked up the sword and pried it gently, causing the coffin lid to fall to the ground. He looked confused. It shouldn't be. It was opened so easily. A few people looked down and saw a stunningly beautiful woman in red costume lying inside. Had they not known that there was a dead person inside, they would never have believed that a body could be so well preserved, as if it were asleep. Just when everyone was feeling sorry for the woman in the coffin, Yin Qinji saw the face of the woman's corpse and looked back at Mu Qinjian. Well, have you ever felt that the woman in the coffin is exactly the same as Xiao Yanyan? Her reminder made everyone look at her face, and then at the face of the coffin. Zhang Xingrui swallowed. Are you Mu Qinjian? You can't really be a ghost, right? Mu Qinjian walked to the coffin with a solemn expression, looked at the person holding the coffin, and reached out to touch her right hand. An obvious scar told her that this was her body in a previous life. She had no idea that one day she would be able to touch her own body. She didn't know who took the trouble to preserve her body in such perfect condition. But she knew it was definitely not Grandpa, because she and Grandpa had told her that if she died one day, remember to cremate her body. She doesn't want to be used after death. But since this world is obviously not the same world as the one she lives in, why her body appears here is very strange. Suddenly her body turned into ashes and turned into a spiritual bead that slowly fell on her hand. This strange scene made several people stunned in surprise. Yin Qinji looked at the fist-sized bead in her hand. Xiao Yanyan, this woman who looks exactly like you has disappeared? Why did she turn into a bead? But this bead is so beautiful. She put the beads into her backpack and actually put them into the space. I don't know what's going on, Mr. Yin. Do you need to look for anything else? Yin Lao smiled and shook his head. A lot of things have been found, but I can't take this coffin with me, and I can't study the special features of this ancient sacred tree. Do you need this coffin? Then I will bring it for you. After speaking, he picked up a few wooden roots on the ground and simply carved them into 4 small dolls. A piece of talisman paper was affixed to each head, and several dolls immediately came to life and turned into 1-meter-tall dolls. The 4 dolls lifted the coffin vigorously and walked towards the entrance of the cave with light steps. A few people watched this magical scene, and then stared blankly at the 4 wooden dolls carrying the coffin and walking away. After Yin Qinji reacted, she hugged her adoringly. Oh my god! Xiao Yanyan, you are just like the fairy cultivating heroine in the novel. You are omnipotent. You can even do magic. I think you are the heroine in this world. Being friends with you is like hugging a big boss. My legs gave me countless lives. Okay, we followed them out. A few people followed the 4 puppets until they were about to exit the cave. Suddenly a figure stopped in front of the puppet, looking at the coffin with greedy eyes. This coffin belongs to me, you can keep it and get out. This person is the middle-aged man, and now he shows an evil face, which is completely opposite to the first time we met. Mu Qinjian sneered coldly, you cut our rope and lied to us about coming to the cave on the mountain. The middle-aged man laughed loudly, I did it. I didn't expect you to come out of the piranha's mouth alive. You are quite capable. But in front of me, you are like ants. Haha, it's just that a monk in the early stages of foundation building is so arrogant. You think too highly of yourself. The middle-aged man was furious and looked at her up and down with greedy eyes. Looking for death, I want you to be my cauldron and make you surrender to me forever. Mukinjian waved her hand, and the flames burned on his body. He shouted in pain. No matter what he did, he couldn't extinguish the strange flames on his body. Within a few minutes, it was burned to ashes by the flames and blown away by a gust of wind. She said expressionlessly, "Let's go." He killed countless people, and countless young women died in his hands. Yankinja held her hand believingly. "Well, Xiao Yanyan, we believe you, don't worry. We won't tell others that you killed someone." "Yes. A bad guy like him deserves to die." Zhang Xingrui nodded at the side. Yin Lao and Zhang also said with a smile, "It's okay to die if a bad guy dies. Let's go back." She smiled and said, "Well, let's go back. This is a true friend. When encountering something like this, he will always support you and will not doubt you. This kind of friend is the one Mukinjian deserves to keep close friends with. Thanks to Ni Dewei Xiaomo for sending me 2 monthly passes, and thank you all for your recommendation votes, thank you." End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 145. Chapter 145, Announcement of Funeral Arrangements. Because he had experienced Mukinjian driving a car, Zhang Xingrui offered to drive himself. Her driving skills were really scary. Lao Yin and Lao Zhang have already asked people to fly the coffin back. Because the road was difficult to drive, several people drove until night before returning to the imperial capital. After sending the two of them back, she also drove back in the car. Mu Yinhan and the two little guys saw her coming back and ran to her side excitedly. She hugged him and said, "Is little Yunyan good at home? Have you listened to your brothers?" "Yes, mother, I miss you." "Haha, really, mom misses you too." Mu Xiao laughed and said, "Sister, little Yunyan wet the bed today, and then she became shy." "Haha. That's it?" "Well, he was shy and hiding under the bed. We looked for him for a long time before we found him under the bed," Mu Xiaoyui explained with a smile. She saw him hiding in her arms shyly. "Okay. It's okay. Our little Yunyan is still a child, so it's normal. My brother and the others also wet the bed when they were young." At this time, he raised his head suddenly and said, "Brother is so shy." He put him down and said, "Go and play with your brothers. Be safe." As soon as he put him down, he ran to the sofa in a hurry, and the two people quickly followed him. Mukinjian returned to the room, flashed into the space, and looked at the spirit beads in the space. Holding it in the palm of her hand, the spirit bead suddenly penetrated into her body, and she felt a strong spiritual power pouring into her body. Now that her body has become stronger, she is no longer afraid of not having enough spiritual power to advance. She was just curious about how her body came into this world. She stopped thinking when she couldn't figure it out, so she had to find some space. They finished their meal, chatted with them for a while, and then returned to the house holding Mu Yinhan, who was asleep. Go to school as usual the next day, and occasionally go out to do tasks every day and deal with strange things for others. A year passed in circles like this, but Han Yexuan did not come back. She came to his room at night and looked around his room. She felt that he must have known that such a situation would occur a year later, and finally found a hidden compartment in a hidden place. Opening the secret compartment, there is indeed a safe, which requires a password to open. She entered her password and realized it was her birthday. There was only a videotape inside, so she took it out and projected the content inside. Han Yexuan sat on the chair and smiled. "Ching'er is really smart, she actually found the thing I left for you. He then smiled bitterly and said, "If you come to my room and find this videotape, it means that I have broken the promise. I'm sorry, my Jing-er, please forgive me for breaking the promise. Actually, I came to this world from the ancient world of gods. Every year I stay in this world, I will be forcibly driven away. Because this world cannot tolerate me, the heaven here has been driving us outsiders away. If I can't come back, it means that something is in trouble in my world, or this world can't come back for the time being. But don't worry, Jing-er, I will find a way back, because I promised to marry you." Mu Qingjian fell into deep thought until she finished reading. She knew that his origin was not simple, but she had never heard of the ancient world of gods, even if she came from ancient times. But she had never heard of this name. Could it be that it was a world higher than hers? In her memory, she had heard those enlightened monks say it. Immortal cultivators are just the most ordinary people in the world, but they are strong in the eyes of mortals. In the higher world, immortal cultivators are extremely ordinary people. Only by breaking through the highest realm of immortal cultivators and entering a higher level world can that be the world of the truly strong. Now she has a faint feeling that she is about to break through in her cultivation, and she did not expect that she would break through so soon. It should be related to her original spirit bead. It stands to reason that it will take at least a long time for her to break through. She didn't know if breakthrough would be driven out of the world, but she could vaguely feel a powerful spiritual force watching her every move. In the following time, Mu Qingjian finished her college entrance examination. Obtained the highest honor from the Imperial Phoenix Academy, the first capital of the Imperial capital, achieved enviable test results, and perfectly left a name in the Imperial Phoenix Academy. Having taken care of all the things and things again, looking at the two little guys, they are no longer weak now. If one day she is really driven out of this world, they will also have the ability to protect themselves, but it is a pity that she cannot watch them grow up. Her strangeness naturally made Bolao and others notice the strangeness, so Bolao asked the family to come to the secret passage of the room. Lao Bo looked at her and said, "Xiao Yan, has something happened to you?" Several people on the side looked at her one after another. After all, she did it so obviously that they must have noticed it, and it felt like she was explaining the aftermath. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Yinhan. "Grandpa, my strength may have exceeded the highest limit in this world. I feel a powerful force suppressing me and trying to drive me away." Bo Yi showed a surprised expression. "Xiao Yanyan, what does it mean to break through to the highest level?" The immortal cultivators are divided into the Qi training stage, the foundation building stage, the golden elixir stage, the nascent soul stage, the out-of-body stage, the distraction stage, the integration stage, the transcending tribulation period. The transcending tribulation period is the highest state of the immortal cultivators in this world, and the higher one is you are talking about immortals. A few people also understood instantly. Mr. Bo said slowly, "So you are now in the period of transcending tribulation, right?" She nodded. "Well, yes, I am now in the late stage of transcending the tribulation." Mu Xiao lowered her head sadly. "So sister, are you going to leave us? You are going to become an immortal and go to live in the immortal world, right?" She rubbed his head and said, "Even if my sister goes to another world, you still have to take good care of grandpa and grandma. Practice well and you can come find your sister." "Well, I know, sister, I will try my best." Mu Xiaoyui also looked at her reluctantly. "Sister, will we reach the level of my sister one day?" "Yes, you are the most powerful, and you will definitely become the strongest immortal cultivator." The two old men knew that their granddaughter was not an ordinary person, and now she was going to become an immortal, and they were filled with joy. Bo Yi could only look at her with envy. Ever since he reached a certain level of cultivation, his mentality had also changed. The highest realm of practitioners in this world, he is very curious. It's impossible for him to cultivate to this level in this life. Mu Qingjian hugged Mu Yunhan and said with a smile, "And Grandpa, little Yunyan's body is an ancient divine dragon, and it is my natal beast." The little guy showed his dragon horns, surprising them again. After a night of talking, they were completely relieved. Mu Xiao and Mu Xiao became even more clinging to her, probably because they were afraid that she would leave suddenly. "So I want to cherish the time with her. Thanks to Luru Abinjian for sending me 2 monthly passes. Thank you for your support." Chapter 146 is still under review. I don't know when it will be approved. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 146. Chapter 146, Breaking Through the Tribulation Period. In just half a year, she directly took the postgraduate graduation examination and successfully graduated. Later, he also took the doctoral examination at the same time, answered questions and scientific research that humans could not answer again and again, and achieved countless achievements that exceeded human limits. Become a generation of academic god, passed down through the ages, every college entrance examination candidates put her portrait in their arms. It means that she must pass every exam, and her personal talisman paper avatar has become the hottest seller in the college entrance examination every year. She has also been practicing and breaking through the final hurdle. As her cultivation progressed closer and closer, she could feel more changes in the way of heaven. 3 years later, today is the day that Zhangxing Grui and Yin Qinjia get married. When she attended her wedding, as a friend, she looked at her happy smile and sincerely lamented that time passed so quickly, and in the blink of an eye she got married and became a wife. She hugged her and cried happily. "Xiao Yanyan, thank you for being with me during the 5 years we have known each other, and thank you for having you along the way. Wow, I am so touched. It is my blessing to know you. I don't know why I suddenly want to cry. I know I shouldn't cry today, but I still want to cry." Zhangxing Grui watched her cry and hugged her. "Why are you crying? My good wife, please stop crying. You may misunderstand me and bully you. Today is our wedding day. Be happy, wife." Mu Qingjian smiled at the side and said, "Yes. Yaya, be happy. Today is your wedding day, don't be sad." At this time, Yu Qingqing came to her wedding with her children and walked slowly in front of her. "Congratulations to you Qinjia, and congratulations to your lovers for finally getting married." "Thank you Qingqing, you should be happy too." Tanyuj and Zhang Minmin also walked over slowly. Yu Qingqing was heartbroken by the scene in front of her. Tanyuj patted his shoulder and said, "Congratulations to you Rui. I wish you a son soon." Haha. After finishing speaking, he smiled at Yu Qingqing and said, "How are you doing recently?" She smiled, "Yeah. It's pretty good, how about you?" "I'm fine too, I feel relieved to see that you are doing well. The child is very cute." Since Mu Qingjian learned about Zhang Minmin's strange feelings for her, she has deliberately tried to make things easier for her and her apprentice. As a result, neither of them understood. So she had no choice but to give up. She was probably not matchmaker material. Anyway, Zhang Minmin is now an immortal cultivator, and her extremely yin body is the most suitable for Tanyuj's extremely yang body. Anyway, they both have a long time together, so they can slowly develop their relationship. After the wedding activities were over, everyone drank and ate. When one person saw Mu Qingjian, they came over to toast her. "Major General Mu, you have been very busy recently." "It's okay, what's wrong, Colonel Gao?" Colonel Gao smiled and said, "It's okay. I've been busy lately. I didn't have time to congratulate you on becoming a major general." "Congratulations. Mu Qingjian nodded and said, Colonel Gao, there is no need to be polite. Thank you for your congratulations. I also hope that Colonel Gao will be promoted step by step. Haha, that's really a blessing from you. Major Mu, go ahead and do your work first. Okay, let's talk next time. After their wedding was over, she rushed home anxiously. Looking at Mu Yinhan lying on the bed with a painful expression on his face, he asked, Xiaoyun, what's wrong with you? Mother, Xiaoyun can't stand it any longer. She looked nervous. What's going on? What happened? His face was white and his forehead was covered with sweat. Mother, the law of heaven is going to drive us away. Mu Qingjian quickly picked him up and walked to the outskirts of no man's land alone. Bo Yi and others hurriedly followed behind with their parents. When they rushed, it was like a huge hole opened in the sky. The sky was covered with dark clouds, surrounded by lightning and thunder, and they could feel the howling wind. Bo Lao and the others stood in the distance and watched the scene in front of them nervously. This was such a terrifying strength that it opened a big hole in the sky. What kind of strength does my granddaughter have that can make the whole world change her face? The two little guys looked at him with anxious expressions on their faces. Dandan and Bingfeng transformed into their real bodies and worked together with Mu Qingjian to overcome the difficulties. Mu Yinhan also transformed into her own body, and a huge dragon body surrounded her. Thunder struck her one after another, as if they were trying to kill her. Dandan and Bingfeng were hit so hard that their fur was scorched, but they still didn't move away. The family looked at the scene in front of them and looked distressed. Master, we can't hold on any longer. Dandan and Bingfeng are trying hard to resist the way of heaven. Mu Yinhan flew into the sky to resist the catastrophe. They feel that the heavenly laws of this world are driving them away, but their master is now in the process of advancement. Ah! Mu Qingjian successfully advanced and slowly fell from the air. They looked excited. Master, you succeeded. Looking at Mu Xiao and the others in the distance, she smiled. Grandpa and Grandma, take care of yourselves. Xiao and Xiaoyui practice well. Boyi's family depends on you. You must take good care of yourselves. Don't worry, I will be back soon. The family couldn't help but shed tears as they watched her disappear. Mu Xiao cried sadly, Sister. Mu Xiaoyui hugged him and said, Xiao, I will stay with you, don't cry. Grandma Bo cried in old Bo's arms, Old man, will Xiao Yan come back? Don't worry, if she said she would come back, she will definitely come back. When Tang Yuj and Zhang Minmin rushed to the scene, they saw a white light floating into the sky. He came to Boyi's side and said, Yi, where is my master? He looked at the sky with some sadness. She left just now, you guys are a step too late. He looked at the sky with a regretful smile. Master congratulates you, I hope you can find him. Zhang Minmin wiped away her tears, feeling proud and happy for her. After Mu Qingjian disappeared, everyone left the scene. They didn't know when they would see her again. Mu Qingjian, who entered another realm, fell onto a huge tree and jumped down from the tree. It was great to see Dandan and Bingfeng not far away with their eyes full of tears. Fortunately, they are still there. Eggy stood up and shook the leaves all over his body. Wow, master! The air here is so fresh and there is so much spiritual power. Bingfeng came to her side and said, Master, it seems that we are no longer on the aquamarine planet. Mu Qingjian looked up at the sky and held the unconscious Mu Yinhan in her arms. Looking at the exaggeratedly large trees all around, you can't even see the top of the tree at a glance. This ancient and mysterious place filled her with memories. It seems that she has really arrived in the fairy world. She wants to find Xian and find her way back to modern times. After all, she quite likes that kind of life. Wherever there are family and friends she likes, she will eventually go back. As long as she finds Xian, she will have a way to go back and return to modern times. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Lugo Meyer. Chapter 147. Chapter 147, The Road to Finding a Husband 1. Mukinjian didn't know how long she had been flying in the forest when she suddenly found a group of people fighting with monsters in front of her. After running for a long time, she finally saw a living person. She immediately told Dandan and Bingfeng to change shape so as not to attract attention. In a group of people, behind a handsome young man in white, stood a girl in pink, and a dozen guards around. Everyone was slightly injured. The ferocious monster in front of them bared its extremely sharp teeth. Staring at the group of people in front of him, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. "Cousin, what should we do? We can't defeat this red-blooded wolf at all." The girl was a little scared and hid behind the guard. The young man frowned impatiently. "Shut up, if you weren't willful, we would have encountered a high-level monster like the red-blooded demon wolf." The girl looked aggrieved. "I didn't mean it, that phantom fox is indeed very beautiful. I want it to be my spiritual pet." "Ouch!" The red-blooded demon wolf howled and bit the nearest guard to death. The guard was bitten in half without even making a cry. A group of people attacked desperately, but still couldn't kill the red-blooded demon wolf. The young man in white was unwilling to attack with all his strength. He did not want to die here easily. She vomited blood when she saw that he was injured, but he continued to fight hard. She had no choice but to come to her rescue. After all, they were the first people she saw in this other world. Mukinjian floated down from the tree, raised the sword in her hand and started fighting with the red blood demon wolf. Young man Du Qingling watched Mukinjian fall from the sky, dressed in a weird outfit. But he still couldn't ignore her stunning appearance. He had never seen this woman in the fairy world. "She is better than the fairy Saint Lu Yanyao he has met. Girl, watch your back." Du Qingling hurriedly took action. Mukinjian didn't want to waste time, so she jumped on it and stabbed it into the neck. The red-blooded demon wolf twitched a few times and lay motionless on the ground. He looked surprised. "What a powerful woman." Du Qingling came to her, clasped her fists and thanked her. "Thank you, girl, for saving your life." Du is very grateful. Mukinjian raised her hands and clasped her fists. "Young master, you're welcome. After all, meeting each other is fate. How can you not save me even if you die?" He handed her the demon pill and said, "Give this to the girl. Let's get out of here first." She took the demon pill and said, "Okay." A few people flew with their swords and left the monster forest. The group of people flew out with their swords for a long time and met many people on the road. After landing, Du Qingling held up the sign in his hand, and the soldiers standing at the city gate immediately let him go. Seeing Mukinjian's doubts, Du Qingling explained, "We are in Tianyu City now. Only with a token can we enter the city. With this token, we can enter and exit any city at will." She was a little curious about how to get the token, so she asked, "Then how do you get the token in your hand?" Du Qingling smiled and said, "Miss Mu wants this fairy card, so I'll give you this token. You can bleed it when the time comes." The woman in pink looked angry. "Cousin, that's..." Du Qingling glared at the girl in pink, who stepped aside with an aggrieved look on her face. Mukinjian took the token in his hand and said, "I'm welcome, thank you." He nodded gently. "It's just a token. Miss Mu doesn't need to be polite." "What are Miss Mu's plans next?" "I will buy some necessary things nearby and then plan other things." She looked around curiously. Du Qingling handed her a token. "This is my Du family token. If anything happens to Miss Mu, you can use this token to come to my fairy city to find me." "Okay, let's say goodbye here and see you later." Mukinjian politely clasped her fists and saluted. "Take care, Miss Mu, see you later." After saying that, he hurried away with her cousin. "Master, what are we going to do next?" Dandan looked curious. "Let's go see how much this monster pill is worth first, and exchange it for some money. Otherwise it will be inconvenient to go anywhere, then we will look for your male master and find our way back to modern times. Bingfeng lay on her shoulder. Master, this world is so big. I don't know where the master is. She said with determination, we will definitely find him and return to modern times. Walking with them on the street, people passing by couldn't help but look at Mukinjian subconsciously. What a beautiful fairy, so perfect. While walking on the road, she was suddenly stopped by a man. She walked aside, but the man stopped her again. She raised her head and looked at this extremely ugly man, which was really irritating to her eyes. Roll. Wow, this man is so ugly. It's over, I'm going to go blind. Dandan quickly buried his head in her arms. As an extreme face controller, he couldn't bear it. What are you talking about? Do you know who I am? How dare you talk to me like this? Are you looking for death? But because you are so good looking, I will let you go if you become my concubine in the 21st room. Yes, the man thought he was holding the fan in a graceful manner, with a look of grace on his face, which instantly made her vomit. That's right, Mukinjian really vomited. After retching for a while, she kicked the man down. She kicked and scolded him at the same time. She was already in a bad mood, so she just scolded and kicked her. Did you go out and look in the mirror today? You're uglier than my pigs, but you have a nice idea. Who gave you the courage to go out? You're so ugly, I was so scared that I almost vomited out my meal. Oh. You think you are so graceful when you hold a fan. Damn it, you are so ugly and so annoying. Dandan and Bingfeng stood on her shoulders and shouted cheers, mumbling words that only Mukinjian could hear. The master kicked him until his mother didn't even recognize him. How dare this shameless guy miss his master? Dandan couldn't help but jump down and kicked him a few times, knocking out the man's teeth. The last kick kicked the person more than 10 meters away. I feel dirty even if I hit you with my foot. After that, I walked away gracefully. The man was beaten so hard that he probably didn't even recognize his mother. He was already fat, but this time she kicked him and made him fatter again. Haha, I laughed to death. Yeah, why do you think this woman is so interesting? How did she come up with so many curse words? I didn't expect to meet such an interesting person when I came to Fairy City. The evil-looking man smiled from ear to ear while holding a fan. The mysterious man called Ye by men only showed the purple eyes under the mask, and he was cold and showed no expression. It's not yours to be interesting, but you can stay if you want. Haha, I'm just kidding, no matter how beautiful the beauty is, what's the use? The evil man shook his head and sighed. The masked man looked at Mukinjian's leaving figure, lost in thought, and put down the tea in his hand. Let's go. After saying that, he disappeared. The evil man immediately followed. Hey, wait for me. She came to a store specializing in buying all kinds of treasures with the monster pill. One of the waiters saw the high-level demon pill she took out and quickly called the shopkeeper out. The shopkeeper held the monster pill and said in a polite tone, "Young lady, you are sure you want to sell this crystal? Once sold, you will not return it. You must think clearly. It's a fixed price." Directly from the shopkeeper, "Look at the price." She had a serious expression on her face. Upon seeing this, the shopkeeper immediately said politely, "Girl, how about 10,000 purple gold coins? This is the maximum amount our store can bear." "No problem, deal." Mukinjian agreed readily. The shopkeeper took the storage bag and put 100,000 purple gold coins in it. She nodded and smiled, picked up the storage bag and put it in her pocket, and left here. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 148. Chapter 148, The Road to Finding a Husband 2. Mukinjian bought a bunch of daily necessities that she needed now and changed into ancient clothes. Dandan and Bingfeng looked surprised. "Master, you look good in ancient clothes." Really, maybe I am an ancient person myself, and I haven't worn ancient clothes for a long time, so it felt a little strange for a while. Dandan smiled and said, Master, no matter whether he wears modern or ancient clothes, he looks good. Ignoring Dandan's flattery, the group continued to look for clues about Han Yexuan. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble along the way, the two of them transformed into ordinary spiritual beasts. In recent days, she found out that they did not know anyone named Han Yexuan, but there were three major immortal sects in Fairy City that were recruiting disciples. In order to better get in touch with the world and find clues about Xian, she decided to join the Xianmen sect first. No matter how carefully you study the rules of this world, it will be easier for you to better integrate into this world, and you can also find out about Xian. As she flew closer to the city gate with her sword, there were more and more people. Everyone looked happy to participate in the recruitment of disciples for the immortal section. After all, these three major immortal sects only recruit students once every 100 years. The three major sects are the Immortal Spirit Sect, the Immortal Snow Sect, and the Immortal Yu Sect. I heard that the saint from the Immortal Snow Sect will also come. I really want to take a look at our Luo Yuling from the Immortal City. Not only the Saint Luo Yuling from the Immortal Snow Sect will come, but also the Holy Sun from the Immortal City. Then it's an eye-opener for us. These two are geniuses in our fairy world. That's not true. I heard that Saint Luo Yuling has reached the peak of the Qing rank, and she has such an astonishing talent at only 19. This is incomparable. The Holy Sun Mu Yuxiao is even more terrifying. He is now an intermediate blue level and is only 20 years old. Hey, I'm really envious. Stop talking, the competition to recruit disciples has begun, let's go. Mu Qingjian wore a mask and listened with great interest. Sure enough, there are gossips everywhere you go. Wouldn't this mean that you can get some useful information from gossips? Eggy said happily, Master, let's go and join in. Bingfeng looked proud. Our master is definitely better than them, there is no doubt about it. She ignored their bickering and walked into the crowd casually. She is not in a hurry now. After all, there are so many people here. She needs to read the rules of the competition first and then make plans. I saw a middle-aged man shouting sternly on the stage. Quiet. The pressure from the blue-level immortal made the people below instantly quiet. All the people who came to participate had uncomfortable expressions on their faces and could hardly breathe. At this time, the middle-aged man withdrew the pressure and said, Today is the recruitment competition of the three sects once a century. There are no rules. There are levels of competition. Each time there are 300 people dueling, and the 30 people who win in the end stay. Now the competition is official start. Soon a group went up, leaving 30 people. After finishing dozens of groups of people in a row, Mu Qingjian slowly jumped up. The 28th duel begins. With an order, everyone frantically attacked those nearby. She looked at the crazy crowd, just moving around and not attacking anyone. Those who attack her cannot hit her at all. Switching to someone else, everyone was attacking desperately, but she was the only one lazily dodging the attacks. The last person, Mu Qingjian, kicked the man off directly, and 30 people including her also stayed. The person who was beaten down had a look of complaint on his face. Holy shit, this woman's positioning is really amazing, I can't beat her at all. That's right. Is this okay? This kind of competition is too unfair. Several elders of the immortal sect watched her operation. Elder Xian Xuman looked disdainful, you can escape the first game, but you can't escape the second. The elder of Xianlingmen smiled and said, Elder Yan is right, good luck is a kind of strength, but strength is indispensable. The elders of Xianyuman just smiled and did not participate in their conversation. The game ended soon, with more than 2,000 people left behind. Others looked regretful and had to wait until next time if they missed it. But some people will not be able to participate in this life, because the three sects only accept those under the age of 200. At this time, an old man came up with a smile on his face. Welcome everyone to successfully enter the first game. Who can climb to the top of this level in the second game? You can successfully choose your favorite fairy gate and the game begins. 2,000 people immediately ran away, followed closely by Mukinjian. Not far away, someone was lying on the ground rolling in pain. She looked at every stage and saw people showing various expressions. Some are happy, some are afraid, and some are sad. At this time, a sunny and handsome young man cautiously came to her side and said, "This is a fairyland. Once these people can't get out, the game will be lost." She looked surprised. "I see, so many people are in trouble at the same time. This person's magical power is extraordinary." The sunny boy held his stomach and laughed, "Ha ha, is this your first time participating in the immortal competition? This is not done by immortals, this is a kind of immortal magic." "That's it, thank you." The sunny boy smiled brightly and waved his hands. "You're welcome, my name is Nangong Yuran." "What about you?" She smiled, "My name is Mukinjian, hello." Nangong Yuran looked her up and down, and suddenly approached cautiously. "You also ran away from home, what a coincidence. We are the same kind of people, no wonder I felt so familiar when I saw her." Looking at the familiar Nangong Yuran in front of him, he couldn't help but think of his younger brother Muziao. Well, that is indeed quite a coincidence. She also had a good impression of the big boy in front of her. They walked together, but only 2/3 of the way away, she and Nangong Yuran were pulled into the illusion mirror. Mukinjian saw a ghost suddenly appear in front of him, and he killed it directly. The ghosts turned into her parents again, and she killed them without mercy. The phantom mirror shattered all the way down, and she successfully moved to the top. Nangong Yuran ran up to her with a smile, "I suddenly lost sight of you just now. Fortunately, you passed. You're not bad, either. The next step is the level test. After passing the level test, you can choose your favorite immortal section." "Mukinjian, do you have a favorite sect?" She thought for a while and said, "I prefer Xianyuman. I like this name." Nangong Yuran was instantly surprised, but the two immortal sects, Xianling sect and Xianxu sect, are more popular in recent years. After all, the Xianxu sect has the Saint Luo Yuling, and the Xianling sect has the Saint Mu Yuxiao. That one women and men don't like it? Oh, that's right, then you are here because you admire the Saint Luo Yuling. Nangong Yuran suddenly looked upright and patted his chest to comfort her. "I'm not, am I the kind of person who depends on appearance? Don't worry, Mukinjian, you may be wearing a mask because you may be a little unsatisfied with your appearance and have low self-esteem. I understand, don't worry. I, Nangong Yuran, am not the kind of person who covets beauty." She smiled helplessly, "Then I'd like to thank you. By the way, you grew up here. Have you ever heard of the name Han Yexuan?" Nangong Yuran shook his head, "I've never heard of it. There are very few people named Han in the entire immortal ancient world." Mukinjian, who couldn't wait for the news, had no choice but to find another way. After all, it was only her second day here and she would find him one day. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 149. Chapter 149, The Road to Finding a Husband 3. When Dandan heard Nangong Yuran say that his master was ugly, he smiled from ear to ear in the space, but he did not dare to smile too obviously. You have to know that the owner of the house can be narcissistic sometimes, and she is also a beauty control herself. This is the first time I heard my master being called ugly, and I still can't refute it. Nangong Yuren saw that she had stopped speaking, thinking that he had just talked about her sadness, so he looked apologetic. Mu Qingjian, are you really okay? In fact, just be ugly if you are ugly. If you can't get married, I don't mind marrying you then. But I don't necessarily want to marry just you. Maybe I meet someone I like. People. Dandan and Bingfeng burst into laughter instantly and rolled around in the space. Haha, I'm sorry master, we didn't mean to laugh. Haha, master believes in us. She slapped Nangong Yuren on the head. Shut up, if you keep talking nonsense, I'll kill you. She was just thinking about where Xian was, and didn't care at all that he said she was ugly. These were all trivial things, okay. Nangong Yuren was so frightened by her strong words that he immediately clamped his arms and covered his mouth. Dandan and Bingfeng in the space immediately stopped laughing and clamped their tails. It's so scary, so frightening, this is the idea of one person and two spiritual pets. Suddenly the crowd shouted, look, it's the holy son of the immortal spirit sect, Mu Yuxiao, and the immortal snow sect, Luo Yuling. Everyone saw Luo Yuling standing on the scene as a fire phoenix holy beast came to the scene, wearing a white dress. The cuffs are embroidered with silver white peonies, and a few auspicious clouds are outlined with silver thread. She gently turned her body, her long skirt spread out, and her movements were as graceful as a willow blowing in the wind. Mu Yuxiao stood on the head of a huge purple gold dragon python of the holy spirit beast. He was wearing a black narrow-sleeved python robe with golden auspicious clouds embroidered at the cuffs. He had a vermilion and white jade belt around his waist and a white jade exquisite waist pendant hanging on it. He was elegant and impressive. The two of them put away their spiritual beasts and sat in their seats with cold faces. This high-profile appearance special effect is really enviable by everyone, especially the Holy Spirit beast. The old man waved to the crowd, and the people below became quiet instantly. The next step is to test the spiritual power. The person whose name is called comes up for the test. Ifes. The crystal ball suddenly lit up with a pale yellow light, and the old man looked satisfied. Mu Yunru is 15 years old, intermediate yellow rank, spiritual root purity is 90. As expected of the sister of the Holy Sun Mu Yuxiao, she is amazing. The elder of the immortal spirit sect nodded, with a look of relief on his face. Mu Yunru walked away with an arrogant expression. Luo Hao. The young man jumped up, pressed one hand on the crystal ball, and used his spiritual power. A deep yellow light lit up. Luo Hao is 16 years old, a high-level Huang rank. His spiritual root purity is 92. Ouch, this is the younger brother of Saint Luo Yuling. The elders of Xiangxiu sect smiled happily and looked at Luo Yuling with satisfaction. Yuling, my brother is pretty good. She smiled slightly and said in a pleasant voice, Elder, don't praise him, he is very naughty. Haha, young people, full of energy. The next ones are very ordinary people, and no one is more powerful than the people from the Mu family. Sci-Yunqian. As soon as the man pressed the crystal ball, a shining dark green light lit up. The old man looked surprised. Sci-Yun is 19 years old, the peak of the green level. The purity of his spiritual root is 95. As soon as the old man opened his mouth, the heads of the three sects also looked at Sci-Yunqian with satisfaction. Nangong Yuren looked dissatisfied. Why did this kid come to participate? I thought he wouldn't come. Mu Qingjian looked at her and said, you know each other. We know each other, and more than that, we also have a grudge. I was forced to come here half by him. She looked at Nangong Yuren's angry face, and she really couldn't imagine Sci-Yunqian looking like a cold and aloof person. How could he offend him so much and hate him so much, but he couldn't feel Nangong Yuren's hatred. Nangong Yuren shook his head, don't mention him anymore. Talking about it will only bring tears. Lu Ruyu is 15 years old, a junior in the Huang rank, and her spiritual root purity is 85. The girl stepped back with a satisfied look on her face. Du Qingling. Du Qingling is 18 years old, a junior green leveler, and has a spiritual root purity of 90. She looked at Du Qingling on the stage. What a coincidence. Nangong Yuren. As soon as Si Yunkin heard Nangong Yuren's name, his handsome and cold face finally showed a smile. Nangong Yuren shook his hair handsomely and pressed the crystal ball with one hand domineeringly. The old man was surprised. There are so many geniuses this year. Nangong Yuren is 18 years old, intermediate green level, pure spiritual root is 98. Nangong Yuren looked annoyed, having lost to Si Yunkin again. Mu Qingjian looked at the lively discussion among the crowd. She probably knew what level there should be at this age. People above the yellow level should be classified as geniuses. She didn't know how high her level was here, but it was better to keep a low profile. The next one is Mu Qingjian. She flew lightly to the stage and walked forward slowly. At this time, the crowd looked at Mu Qingjian, who was wearing a mask, with curious expressions on their faces. Why are you wearing a mask? Isn't it too ugly? Who knows, he probably wants to steal the limelight. The elder of Xianxiu sect looked surprised. Why is this woman still here? The first level is luck, the second level depends on perseverance and strength. The elder of the Xianling sect laughed. Haha, old Yan. Maybe she really has that strength. Du Qingling looked at the woman dressed in pink and wearing a mysterious mask that revealed an indescribable sense of seduction. Her black hair was hanging down and only tied with a pink hairband. The pink color highlighted the woman's exposed skin. Fairer and more delicate. The gleaming phoenix eyes can capture the soul and captivate the mind, and the lips are like cherry blossoms, attracting endless reveries. It's her. Mu Qingjian stared at the crystal ball in front of her with a puzzled look on her face. Elder, can you just put your hand on it? The old man smiled and said, just pour all your spiritual power into this crystal ball. She suddenly realized it and used half of her spiritual power to input it into the crystal ball. Suddenly a huge dark cyan light lit up, surrounding her. The old man had a look of surprise on his face, and said in a trembling voice, Mu Qingjian is 18 years old, at the peak of the advanced level of the Qing rank, and her spiritual root purity is at the full level. She is actually at the full level. The heads of the three sects all stood up instantly and looked at her in surprise. This woman is actually more powerful than Saint Luo Yuling and Saint Sun Mu Yuxiao. She must be included in her own sect. The two of them also looked surprised. This person was not an ordinary person. Xianxiuman looked at her seriously. You must come to my Xianxiuman to be my personal disciple. You will have all the secrets and tools for practicing elixirs in the future. Luo Yuling said nothing in a low voice. This woman came to the immortal snow gate. If she wasn't suppressed by this person, then she would really never be able to turn around. The Xianling sect smiled. Haha, little girl, are you willing to come to my Xianling sect? Be my direct disciple, but you can practice with the Holy Sun Mu Yuxiao. Haha, you have to think carefully. Mu Yuxiao shook her head helplessly. The master actually used himself to seduce her. Mu Qingjian looked curious. She remembered that she was clearly 23 years old. Why are you only 18 years old? Could it be that she slept for a year when she was 18 years old, which caused her body to remain 18 years old? Thanks to Luruabinjian for sending me 2 monthly passes, and to my book friends who have always supported me. Currently, the heroine is searching for the whereabouts of the hero in another world. During this period, she cannot return to the modern world. She will return to the real world after she finds the hero. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 150. Chapter 150, The Road to Finding a Husband 4. When everyone was envious of Mu Qingjian for being able to enter the Immortal Spirit sect and the Immortal Snow sect, The head of Zayanyuman said to her firmly, as long as you are willing to come to Zayanyuman, I will let my master accept you as a disciple. Are you willing? Oh my God, Zayanyu sect has really spent a lot of money. Could it be that their sect also wanted to accept her as a saint, so they asked the ancestor of Zayanyu to come forward to accept a disciple? The other two heads looked at the head Zayanyu and shamelessly moved out their master. Now I can only see what she will choose in front of me. Mukinjian raised her eyes lightly. I chose Zayanyuman. Zyanlingman and Zyanxuman are also very good, but I came here because of Zayanyuman in the first place. The head of the Zayanyu sect looked annoyed. There was no need to exaggerate her feelings. She would also come to her own Zayanyu section now that the words are out. If he can't do it, the world will make fun of him. The hole you have buried can only be filled up by yourself. Luo Yuling could finally let go of her nervousness when she saw Mu Qingjian choose Zayanyuman. Mu Yuxiao suddenly felt an inexplicable feeling of loss in his heart, and he didn't know why he was like this. The next step is to divide into sections. Mu Yunru naturally joined the Xianling sect and the same sect as her brother Mu Yuxiao. Luo Hao also entered the Immortal Snow sect together with Luo Yuling. Du Qingling and his cousin Lu Ruyu entered the Immortal Spirit Gate, while Nangang Yuran and Si Yunqian chose to enter the Immortal Yu Gate. The head of Zayanyu looked happy and immediately accepted them as his direct disciples. Nangang Yuran glanced at Si Yunqian with a complaint on his face. If you don't go to the Immortal Snow sect, why are you coming to my Immortal Yu sect? Si Yunqian smiled lightly. Is there any rule in the Immortal Yuman that I can't enter? The head of Zayanyu looked proud. This year, 3 heavenly leaders had joined his section. Seeing the unhappy faces of the other 2 sects, he became even more complacent. Haha, you 2 immortal sects have also recruited many young and promising talents. Xianxiu Zhangman gritted his teeth and smiled. Haha, you're welcome. The head of the fairy spirit shook his head helplessly and said with a dry smile, who makes me have no master, ugh. The head of Zayanyu laughed loudly. Haha, let's meet again in 3 months. After saying that, he took Mu Qingjian and some disciples and left. Originally, at the Immortal Alliance conference 3 months later, few people from the Immortal Yu sect might be able to win, but now it's really hanging in the balance. The head of the Zayanyu Gate took her and her group to the Zayanyu Gate and assigned the others to other elders. He took Mu Qingjian, Nangang Yuran, and Si Yunqian to the Zayanyuman temple alone. The leader sat on the seat in the temple and looked at the 3 of them with a look of relief. You are now the inner disciples of my sect, and these 3 tokens are a symbol of your status. Also, as your direct inner disciples, Si Yunqian, you and Nangang Yuran have prepared some gifts for you as masters. These 2 ancient holy swords are just right for you too. Si Yunqian's sword is called the Xianbing sword, and Nangang Yuran's is called the Suanyan sword. There are also ancient scrolls prepared by the master for you, and spirit stones and some money and monster pills. Si Yunqian and Nangang Yuran took the sword and storage bag. Thank you, master. The leader of Zayanyu waved his hand. You should practice well, and if you don't understand anything, just ask your teacher. She looked at the 3 of them, the master and the apprentice, dividing the spoils, but she did not have a share. Hey, man, have you forgotten me? The head of Shania coughed when she called him brother. Haha, what's wrong with junior sister Mu? Tell senior brother. Where's mine? They all have a meeting gift, some ancient holy sword. It's gold, silver, jewelry, and monster pills. Where's my meeting gift? And where's my master? The headmaster stroked his beard solemnly and said angrily, that junior sister Mu. They are all your nephews. As a senior uncle, you should give way to their juniors. This storage bag contains gifts prepared by senior brother for you. Others you can only wait for the master to give it to you. If there's nothing to do, senior brother, I'll go into seclusion for a month, and you can practice on your own first. After saying that, the person disappeared. Mukinjian instantly felt as if she had fallen into a pit, such a deep pit. Nangang Yuren patted her and said, Xiao Jinjian, we will be in the same sect from now on, and you are actually higher than me. You are still our junior uncle, which has made many people envious. She chuckled and said, Uncle Master, let you do it? Give me your things. Nangang Yuren hugged the sword and storage bag tightly in his arms. Ahem, am I not as powerful as you? I'd better be a junior. Okay, it's no use asking for your precious sword. She smiled and shook her head helplessly. Nangang Yuren put away his things and said, let's go and eat. Si Yunkin, are you going or not? Si Yunkin followed them and said, go, you treat us. Nangang Yuren's mouth twitched, his expression stiff. Si Yunkin, you didn't follow me out secretly, did you? Si Yunkin said warmly, well, that's why I didn't bring any money. Nangang Yuren covered his head, it's over, if my grandfather finds out, I'll be dead. She looked confused, who is Si Yunkin to you? If he sneaks out, what does it have to do with you? Si Yunkin's family and my family are good friends. They helped us get engaged before we were born. After Si Yunkin was born, they all thought that my mother was pregnant with a girl. As a result, we are both men. I had to give up. Nangang Yuren looked angry, so. Si Yunkin is a good boy in their eyes, and I am the naughty one. Every time I go to do something, he insists on going with me, but I am punished every time. She opened her big eyes and looked up and down at Si Yunkin, a cool and aloof handsome guy, and Nangang Yuren, a sunny and handsome little puppy. She seems to know a terrible secret. What should I do? I am a little excited to see the live version for the first time. Nangang Yuren and Si Yunkin both had goosebumps when she looked at them. Nangang Yuren looked uncomfortable. Xiao Jinjian, don't look at me like that, I'm a little panicked. Si Yunkin nodded slightly, well, that feels a bit obscene. Mukinjian looked a little embarrassed, ahem, it's nothing, it's nothing. Let's go eat, I'll treat you. It's all because Yaya gave her those very human loves in science, which made her a little obsessed. Just by looking at them, she knew something was wrong. The three of them arrived at the inn at the foot of Xianyumen Mountain. The fellow disciples greeted them politely when they met them. The food on the two tables was full of all kinds of food, which surprised Si Yunkin and Nangang Yuren. Nangang Yuren swallowed, that little Jinjian, isn't that too much? She smiled and said, no more, there is still a table. There's more, can the three of us finish eating? She released Dandan and Bingfeng from the space. The two guys quickly jumped to the next table, and the two spiritual pets ate happily. Since Xiaoan is sleeping now, he cannot eat for the time being. She picked up her chopsticks and said, eat it quickly. It won't taste good when it's cold. Nangang Yuren picked up the chopsticks and said, eat, Si Yunkin, there is enough for us to eat. 3 people and 2 spiritual pets ate all the vegetables. Mukinjian likes these foods very much. She feels warm after eating them. It is indeed spiritual food. Dandan and Bingfeng were also lying on the table with satisfied expressions on their faces. The amount of food consumed by one person and 2 spiritual pets obviously frightened them. End of this chapter.